Well, I voted against the digital economy bill really for two reasons. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of the bill which certainly was controversial, bits of it which, once you started to look into it, you really began to wonder if it was the right way of going forward. But also because with such a complex bill, the convention has always been that when you come to the end of a parliament, you don't rush through anything which is controversial. You leave that to the next parliament. And the more I went into this, the more people contacted you, the more I realised there was a problem here and it shouldn't go through in that way. Well, I didn't have a great deal from the pro-campaign. I think a lot of people were taken by surprise at the strength of the anti-campaign. I realised quite early on there were people who were concerned about it and started engaging in that debate. But certainly in the last couple of weeks, a number of people have contacted me. It wasn't as high as, say, the Iraq War, obviously, but there were probably 100 or maybe a couple of hundred people who had got in touch with me. And it was clear that the arguments against certainly deserve to be looked at. And I think it was only then when the pro-lobby began to realise they had a problem, but they started lobbying MPs. The lobby came partly from the industry, also from the trade unions who represent some people who work in the music field who felt that there was a need for the bill. Again, my view on that is that that's the kind of thing which is very much something which required a debate. You wanted to hear the arguments pro and con, so I certainly was pretty persuaded by those against it, but certainly I didn't want to rush it through without hearing all the arguments. Well, there is a general election first of all, so that affects everyone's understanding as whether we're going to be an MP, obviously. But I think that clearly, I think the bill is now an act. I don't think it's going to be repealed because it obviously had support from Labour, Conservative, and indeed SNP and until the last minute with Lib Dems as well. I think though that there were a lot of powers in the bill which were granted to ministers to put into effect. And I think that they'll be very cautious, any government, about how they use those powers if the campaign continues to focus on what is happening. I think there's also maybe a bit of a wider effect. So this was perhaps the first kind of real, internet campaign, online campaign, which wasn't just a question of people emailing MPs, but you're very conscious there was a kind of a real feeling going out beyond those contacting you as an MP. And I think it was very much a two-way process, which for me, I learnt a lot, and I think a lot of other MPs who voted against the bill have the same experience. So I think that there actually is a bit of a history in the way not just the bill, the act is now taken forward. In a sense, I think it'll be very carefully watched as it's taken forward. But I think the whole way we make laws will have been impacted by this experience as well. Certainly for me, that's one of the lessons I've learned from it. Well, I think the first thing, as I said, it is now an act and has become law, but different parts of it will still require what I call, commencement orders or secondary legislation to be put into effect. And certainly, it's something. Okay, there's lots of things as MPs you have to get involved in, but I'm certainly going to be, taking, a bigger interest in this whole area after the election I'm re-elected, because there are so many ramifications, so many implications from individuals, businesses, human rights and the rest of it, civil liberties, that it needs to be much higher the agenda. And I think it will happen anyway, because I think a lot of MPs, certainly those voted against, and others as well who voted in favour, did realise over the last few days this was something big. So I think there'll be quite a few taking that kind of greater interest, like myself as well.
Great. That's all we need. Thanks so much.